10 days before Christmas, I came home early and heard my daughter planning to destroy me. If my mammogram had not finished ahead of schedule, if that traffic light had stayed red instead of green, I would have walked through my front door at the usual time and never known a thing. But fate or luck or maybe just good timing put me in my driveway in Mesa at 3:10 in the afternoon, a full 2 hours before Jenna and her husband expected me home. I am Margaret, 72 years old, a widow, a mother, a woman who thought she understood what betrayal looked like. I was wrong. Before I continue, let me ask you something. Wherever you are right now, whatever time it is where you are watching this, I want to know, are you in your kitchen? Your bedroom? Is it morning or late at night? Drop a comment and tell me. And if this story touches something in you, please hit that like button and subscribe, because what I am about to share is something I never thought I would have to say out loud, but maybe someone else needs to hear it. Now, let me tell you what happened that December afternoon. I eased my car into the garage and sat for a moment, feeling the familiar ache in my hips. 72 years in this body. 50 of them spent taking care of other people. My late husband, my children, my grandchildren. I thought I had given everything I could give. Turns out, there was still more they wanted to take. I came in through the door that opens to the laundry room. It is always quieter than the front entrance, and that day, quiet saved my life. I slipped off my shoes on the mat, the one I bought so Jenna would not complain about dust being tracked through the house, and I heard voices drifting down from upstairs. From my bedroom, Jenna's voice carried first, bright and pleased, like she had just won something. On Christmas Day, in front of everyone, it is perfect. Once Mom gets emotional and confused, no judge will argue with guardianship. Dr. Lang already signed the form. Guardianship. My hand found the doorframe. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears, in my throat, behind my eyes. Brad's voice came next, lower but just as clear. So we do the little intervention at dinner, read the letter from the doctor, get the pastor to pray over her, make her look unstable. You cry a bit. People will back you up. After that, the hearing is easy. There was a pause. I could hear them moving around above me, their footsteps crossing my ceiling. Then Jenna again, lighter than I had ever heard her sound. And once the court says she is incompetent, the house is ours. The bank accounts, everything. Honestly, it is about time. She has been rattling around here alone since Dad died. We will put her somewhere safe and finally live like adults, not roommates. The house is ours. I had bought this house with my husband 40 years ago. We raised our children here. I nursed him through his last illness in that bedroom upstairs, the one where my daughter now stood planning my humiliation. For the last 2 years, I had let Jenna and Brad move back in temporarily after Brad lost his job. No rent, no utilities. I even refinanced once to pay off their credit card debt. And now, apparently, that generosity meant I was just a burden they needed to manage. I stood there in my laundry room, coat half off, one shoe still on, listening to my own child plan to publicly shame me on Christmas Day, in front of my church friends, my neighbors, the people I had known for decades. They were going to declare me insane and throw me out of my own home. They moved across the ceiling above me. The floor groaned slightly, my bedroom floor, my rug. They were standing on it right now, probably looking through my things, counting what would soon be theirs. I backed away as quietly as I could. 1 step, 2, my hand found the doorknob to the garage. I turned it slowly, slipped through, and pulled the door closed behind me just before my knees gave out. I sat in my car with my hands on the steering wheel, staring at the concrete wall in front of me. For 30 minutes, maybe longer, I could not think clearly. My mind kept circling back to images I did not want to see. Jenna's first day of school, me sewing her prom dress at 2 in the morning, signing the check for her nursing program, handing over my credit card when they were behind on bills. Every single memory felt twisted now, poisoned by what I had just heard. Eventually, something inside me shifted. Not the crumbling kind of shift where everything falls apart. The opposite, a click, like a lock sliding into place. They thought they were trapping me. They thought I was helpless. Fine. Let them think that. They had no idea what I was capable of when I stopped pretending everything was okay. They had no idea what a woman with an accounting background and 40 years of managing household budgets could do when she finally decided to stop being polite. That evening, I walked into my own kitchen like I had not just heard my daughter plan my execution. Jenna stood at the counter chopping carrots. Brad sat at the table scrolling through his phone. "Mom, how was your appointment?" Jenna asked, sweet as honey. "You were gone for hours." "Fine," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Doctor said I am boringly healthy. Is not that something?" Brad glanced up, his eyes moving across my face like he was looking for cracks. "You look tired, Margaret." I smiled at him. "I am just thinking about Christmas dinner. It is going to be quite a night." He laughed a little, like he did not know what I meant. Maybe he did not know that I knew. That was my advantage. That night, I did not sleep. I sat at my small desk with a yellow legal pad and did what I had done my entire adult life as a bookkeeper. I made lists. Assets, debts, timeline, options. The numbers were brutal, but numbers do not lie. I had let them live in my house for 23 months. Market rent in our neighborhood was about $1,800 a month. That came to over $41,000 in free housing. Add to that $6,000 toward Brad's car, $3,500 in credit card payments, $1,200 for their oldest child's private school expenses. The grand total came to just under $52,000. And now they were going to stand in my dining room on Christmas Day, in front of my pastor and my friends, and read a fake letter calling me confused and unsafe. I opened the small fireproof safe in my closet and took out my deed. My name, only my name. Mortgage paid off 10 years ago. I ran my fingers over the paper, feeling the raised seal. They wanted the house? Then the house would have to disappear. I sat back in my chair and looked at the calendar on my wall. December 15th, 10 days until Christmas. 10 days until they planned to humiliate me in front of everyone I knew. I picked up my pen and circled December 23rd, 2 days before their big performance. I whispered into the quiet of my bedroom, my voice steady and cold. They think I am helpless. They have no idea. The next morning, I woke up at 5:30, like I had every day since my husband died. The house was silent. Jenna and Brad would not stir for another 3 hours at least. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table with that yellow legal pad in front of me. The numbers I had written the night before stared back at me. $52,000. But money was only part of what I had lost. Let me tell you about the 2 years before that December morning. Let me tell you what temporary really meant. When Jenna called me in January 2 years earlier, her voice had been tight with tears. Brad had been laid off. They were 3 months behind on rent. Their landlord was filing eviction papers. She had 2 kids to think about. Could they just stay with me for a little while, just until Brad found something new? What mother says no to that? I was 69 then, freshly widowed. My husband had been gone 8 months. The house felt too big, too quiet. Having my daughter and her family there seemed like it might help both of us. So I said yes. They arrived on a Saturday with a moving truck and promises. "Just a few months, Mom. We will be out of your hair by summer." Summer came and went. Brad went to interviews, or so he said. Mostly he sat on my couch watching television, complaining about how nobody appreciated his skills anymore. Jenna worked part-time as a nurse, but her paychecks seemed to vanish into online shopping and trips to Target. I did not mind at first. I cooked dinner every night. I watched the grandkids after school. I paid the electric bill when it came, and the water bill, and the gas bill, because asking them to contribute felt awkward. They were struggling. I had a pension and some savings. What kind of mother keeps score? By the end of the first year, I started to notice things. Jenna stopped asking if she could borrow money. She just told me what she needed. "Mom, the kids need new shoes. Can you cover it?" Or, "Mom, Brad's car needs new tires. Can you put it on your credit card?" Every time I hesitated, she would look at me with this expression, half wounded, half annoyed. "After everything we do for you, we are here keeping you company. You would be all alone otherwise." Keeping me company. As if I had begged them to move in. As if I was the one who needed saving. I started keeping track after that. Not because I am petty, but because I am a bookkeeper. Numbers tell the truth even when people lie. Groceries. I paid for everything. Every gallon of milk, every loaf of bread, every pack of chicken. Average cost per month, $450. Utilities. Electric, water, gas, internet. Another $300 a month. Rent equivalent, $1,800. Incidentals. Clothes for the kids. Co-pays at the dentist. Birthday gifts I bought for their friends' parties because Jenna never had cash. Another $200 a month, give or take. Month after month after month. And every time I thought about saying something, Jenna would do something small and kind. She would make me tea. She would ask how I slept. She would tell me the kids loved having Grandma so close. The manipulation was so gentle I barely noticed it happening. Then, there was my dignity. Brad started making little comments about my memory. "Margaret, you told us that story yesterday." Or, "You already asked me that question this morning." Maybe I had, maybe I had not, but he said it enough times that I started doubting myself. I would lie awake at night trying to remember if I really had repeated myself or if he was just planting seeds. Jenna joined in, softer but just as persistent. "Mom, you left the oven on again last week. I am just worried about you being here alone." I had left the oven on once, after I put a casserole in and got distracted by a phone call. It happens, but she brought it up at least a dozen times, always with this concerned look on her face. I see it now for what it was. They were building a story, laying groundwork, getting me used to the idea that I was failing, forgetting, becoming a problem that needed to be managed. And it almost worked. I sat at that table with my coffee going cold and my legal pad filling up with lines of text. Not just money now. I wrote down every time Brad had corrected me in front of the grandkids. Every time Jenna had sighed like I was being difficult when I asked them to pick up after themselves. Every time they made plans for my house without asking me. The time Brad invited his brother to stay for a week without mentioning it to me first. The time Jenna rearranged my kitchen because she said my system did not make sense. The time they told me I could not go to my book club on Thursday nights anymore because they needed me to babysit. I had been living like a guest in my own home, tiptoeing around their schedules, asking permission to use my own living room. Apologizing when I wanted to watch something other than Brad's sports games on the television my pension paid for. 2 years of my life, poured out like water into sand, and for what? So they could stand in my bedroom 10 days ago and plan to take everything I had left. I flipped to a new page on the legal pad and wrote in capital letters at the top, Christmas Day. Underneath, I wrote what I knew. They were planning an intervention, a public scene, a performance designed to make me look unstable in front of witnesses, the pastor, the neighbors, my friends from church. All of them gathered around my dining table, watching Jenna cry over her poor, confused mother, while Brad read a letter from a doctor I had never seen. And after that, a courthouse, a guardianship hearing, legal papers that would strip away my right to make my own decisions, to spend my own money, to live in my own home. This was not about concern. This was not about love. This was an ambush designed to erase me. I sat back and looked at everything I had written. $52,000, 23 months. Countless small humiliations. A lifetime of sacrifice, twisted into a weapon they planned to use against me. My hand was shaking as I picked up my pen one more time. At the bottom of the page, I wrote, "If they want to ruin me on Christmas, then Christmas is where everything changes." I underlined it twice. Then I picked up my phone and started searching for the number I had gotten from the woman at church. Law offices of Linda Park. It was time to stop being the victim in my own story. I did not call Linda Park that morning. Not yet. First, I needed to know exactly what I had, what I owned, what they could take, what I could protect. While Jenna was at work and Brad was out doing whatever it was he did all day, I went through my filing cabinet with the focus I used to bring to quarterly reports back when I worked at the accounting firm. Every document, every receipt, every piece of paper that proved this was my life, not theirs. The deed came first. I pulled it from the fireproof safe and laid it on my desk. The paper was thick, official, with a raised seal in the corner. My name, just my name, Margaret Ann Cole. My husband's name had been on it once, but when he died, it transferred to me alone, sole owner, no mortgage, no liens. Worth approximately $520,000, according to the assessment that came last spring. I set it aside and kept digging. Insurance policies. My car, paid off 6 years ago, titled in my name, life insurance, naming my children as beneficiaries. I made a note to change that. Homeowners insurance, current and active. Bank statements. My pension deposited automatically on the 1st of every month, $2,200. Social Security, another $1,800. Savings account with $38,000. Money I had been carefully setting aside for years in case I ever needed help or care. They wanted this. All of this. I pulled out a folder labeled Jenna and Brad that I had started keeping 18 months ago. Inside were copies of every check I had written them. Every credit card statement showing purchases I had made on their behalf. Movie tickets for the kids, groceries, gas. The $6,000 loan for Brad's car repair that he swore he would pay back within 6 months. That was 14 months ago. I had not seen a single payment. I added it all up again, just to be sure. $51,840. That was the exact amount. I sat back and stared at the number. My father used to say that when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I had not believed it. I had made excuses. They were struggling. They were stressed. They loved me. They just did not know how to show it properly. But now I knew better. People who love you do not plot your destruction in your own bedroom. I stood up and walked upstairs. My heart beat harder with every step. I had not gone into my bedroom much since I overheard them. It felt contaminated somehow, knowing they had stood in there talking about guardianship and interventions and taking everything from me. But I needed to see what they had been looking at. I opened my closet. Everything looked normal at first glance. My clothes on hangers, shoes lined up on the rack. But when I knelt down to check the safe, I noticed something. Scratches around the lock. Faint, but there. Someone had tried to open it. They did not know the combination. I had never told them, but they had tried anyway. I checked the drawers in my dresser next. Underwear, socks, everything seemed untouched. But in the bottom drawer, where I kept old photo albums and letters from my husband, things were slightly out of order. The albums were stacked differently than I remembered. Someone had been looking through my things. Jenna. She had been searching for something. Maybe financial documents. Maybe a will. Maybe she thought she would find proof that I was incompetent, evidence she could use against me. I felt anger rising in my chest, hot and sharp. This was my home, my private space, and she had gone through it like I was already gone, like I was already in some facility somewhere, unable to stop her. I took pictures with my phone, the scratches on the safe, the disorganized drawer. I did not know if I would need them, but my instincts told me to document everything. Evidence matters, numbers matter, proof matters. Back downstairs, I made myself lunch. A sandwich, some fruit. I ate slowly, thinking. For 2 years, I had felt small in this house. I had felt like I was in the way, like I should be grateful they were here to keep me company. Every time I wanted to say something about the mess they left or the bills they did not pay, I swallowed it. I told myself to be kind, to be patient, to be the bigger person. That version of me felt like someone I used to know a long time ago. The woman sitting at this table now, eating a turkey sandwich and planning her next move, was different. She had been there all along, I think. The bookkeeper who balanced numbers down to the penny. The young mother who figured out how to stretch a paycheck when money was tight. The wife who managed a household budget for 40 years and never once bounced a check. I was not powerless. I had just forgotten I had power. I pulled out my yellow legal pad again and started a new list. This one was different. Not about what I had lost, about what I was going to do. 1. Get a lawyer. Someone who specializes in elder law. Someone who has seen this kind of thing before. 2. Get medical proof that I am competent. A full evaluation from a real doctor, not whatever fake letter Jenna had convinced Dr. Lang to sign. 3. Secure my assets before they can file anything. Move money if I need to. Change beneficiaries. Protect what is mine. 4. Document everything. Dates, times, amounts. Build a case so clear that no judge would ever side with them. 5. Disappear the house. If they cannot take it, they cannot win. That last one made my hand shake a little as I wrote it. Selling my house. The place where I had raised my children, where my husband had died, where 40 years of memories lived in every room. But memories are just ghosts. They cannot keep you warm. They cannot protect you from people who see you as nothing more than an obstacle. I looked at the calendar hanging on my kitchen wall. December 15th. 10 days until Christmas. 10 days until they planned to humiliate me. I picked up a red pen and circled December 23rd, 2 days before their performance. 2 days to make sure everything I owned was out of their reach. If I moved fast enough, if I was smart enough, I could take away their entire plan before they even knew what was happening. I reached for my phone and dialed the number I had found the night before. Law offices of Linda Park, a calm voice answered. Yes, I said, and my voice did not shake. My name is Margaret Cole, and I need to speak with someone about protecting myself from my own daughter. There was a brief pause, then gently, "Can you come in this afternoon?" "Yes," I said, "I can be there in an hour." I hung up, grabbed my purse and my folder of documents, and walked out to my car. For the first time in 2 years, I was not asking permission. I was taking my life back. The law offices of Linda Park sat in a modest brick building in downtown Phoenix, sandwiched between a coffee shop and a tax preparation service. I parked on the street and sat in my car for a moment, gripping the folder of documents against my chest. This was real now. I was about to tell a complete stranger that my own daughter was trying to steal my life. The shame of it threatened to pull me back. What would this lawyer think of me? What kind of mother raises a child who would do something like this? But then I remembered Jenna's voice drifting down from my bedroom. Once the court says she is incompetent, the house is ours. I got out of the car. The lobby was small and clean. Soft gray walls, a few chairs, a desk where a young woman with kind eyes greeted me. "Mrs. Cole? Miss Park is ready for you. Right this way." She led me down a short hallway to an office with a window overlooking the street. Behind a desk sat a woman in her early 50s, black hair pulled back, sharp dark eyes that seemed to take in everything about me in 3 seconds. She stood and offered her hand. "Mrs. Cole, I'm Linda Park. Please, sit down." Her handshake was firm. Professional. I sat in the chair across from her desk and placed my folder in my lap. "Thank you for seeing me so quickly," I said. "Of course." She settled back into her chair and folded her hands on the desk. "On the phone, you mentioned you need protection from your daughter. Can you tell me what's happening?" I took a breath and told her everything. I told her about coming home early 10 days ago, about standing in my laundry room listening to Jenna and Brad plan my humiliation, about the fake doctor's letter, the Christmas dinner performance, the guardianship petition they were preparing. I told her about the 2 years of living in my house rent-free, the $51,000 I had tracked, the way they had slowly made me doubt my own memory and competence. Linda did not interrupt. She took notes on a yellow legal pad, her pen moving steadily across the paper. When I finished, she set the pen down and looked at me. "Mrs. Cole," she said slowly, "what your daughter is planning is called elder financial abuse. It's more common than most people realize, and it follows a very predictable pattern." "A pattern?" I asked. She nodded. "First, they isolate the victim, make you dependent on them, or make it seem like you are. They moved into your home, which puts them in a position of control. You start feeling like a guest in your own house." I felt my throat tighten. That was exactly how it felt. "Then," Linda continued, "they start undermining your confidence. Small comments about your memory, expressing concern about your safety, making you doubt yourself. All of it creates a narrative that you're declining, that you need help." "Brad kept telling me," I repeated myself. I said quietly, Jenna kept bringing up the one time I left the oven on. Exactly. They're building a case. And the finale, the Christmas dinner intervention, that's the public display. They need witnesses who will later testify that you seemed confused, emotional, unstable, the pastor praying over you, your friends seeing you break down. It all supports their claim that you need a guardian. My hands were shaking. Can they really do that? Can they take away my rights just by making a scene? Linda leaned forward. Not easily, but it's possible if they move fast enough and find the right judge. Guardianship is supposed to protect vulnerable adults, but the system can be manipulated. If they file an emergency petition claiming you're in immediate danger and they have a doctor's letter, even a fake one, a judge might grant temporary guardianship while the case is being evaluated. Once that happens, you lose access to your accounts. You lose the ability to make decisions. And fighting it from inside the system is 10 times harder than preventing it from happening in the first place. I felt cold all over. So what do I do? We move faster than they do, Linda said simply. Right now, you have something they don't know you have. Time and legal capacity. No court has declared you incompetent. That means you can still make decisions about your property, your finances, your medical care. We use that window to protect everything before they can file anything. She pulled out her own notepad and started writing. First, we get you a full cognitive evaluation from a neurologist I work with, Dr. Begley. He's thorough and he's credible. If you pass, and I believe you will, that report becomes your shield. Any judge who sees it will know their claims are baseless. When can I see him? I asked. I'll call him as soon as we're done here. He usually has openings within a few days for urgent cases. This qualifies. I nodded, feeling something loosen in my chest. Someone believed me. Someone was helping. Second, Linda said, we need to talk about your assets. You said the house is in your name only? Yes, paid off, no mortgage. Good, that makes things cleaner. Mrs. Cole, I'm going to ask you something difficult. Have you considered selling it? The question landed like a stone in water. Selling my house. The house where I raised my children, where my husband died, where 40 years of my life lived in the walls and floors and windows. But Jenna's voice echoed in my mind again. The house is ours. If I sell it, I said slowly, they can't take it. Exactly. An empty bank account is much harder to steal than real property. Cash can be moved, protected, invested. And if you sell before they file any petition, there's nothing they can do about it. You have every legal right to sell your own home. How fast can something like that happen? Linda considered. In Arizona, with the right buyer and a motivated seller? 2 weeks if we push, maybe less. The market here is strong. A house with no mortgage, priced fairly for a quick sale, would move fast. 2 weeks. That would put closing at the end of the month, right around Christmas. They're planning their intervention for Christmas Day, I said. December 25th. Linda's eyes sharpened. Then we close before that. Give me a few days to connect you with a realtor I trust, someone discreet who understands the situation. We price it to sell immediately. All cash buyer if possible, and we do it quietly. They don't know until it's done. What about my things? My belongings? We'll find you a new place first, something secure. Ideally a senior community with good management and clear lease terms. You move what you want to keep, and we handle the rest. The goal is to be completely settled in your new home before they realize what's happening. I sat back in my chair, my mind racing. This was bigger than I had imagined. Not just protecting myself, rebuilding my entire life in less than 2 weeks. Can I really do this? I asked, and my voice sounded smaller than I wanted. Linda looked at me steadily. Mrs. Cole, let me ask you something. In the last 2 years, have you forgotten to pay a bill? No. Bounced a check? Never. Gotten lost driving somewhere familiar? No. Struggled to manage your medication or your appointments? I don't take any medications except a vitamin, and I've never missed a doctor's appointment in my life. Linda nodded. That's what I thought. You're not the person they're describing. You're sharp, organized, and completely capable of making your own decisions. What you're experiencing isn't decline, It's abuse, and you have every right to protect yourself from it." She closed her notebook and met my eyes. "Mrs. Cole, you're not losing control. You're taking it back." Something shifted in me when she said that. A weight I had been carrying for 2 years, the weight of trying to be accommodating and grateful and easy to live with, lifted just slightly. I was not the problem. They were. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it. All of it. The evaluation, the house, everything." Linda smiled, a small, approving smile. "Good. I'll make some calls this afternoon. Plan to come back tomorrow with any additional financial documents you have. Bank statements, retirement accounts, anything with your name on it. We'll create a comprehensive protection plan." I stood, gathering my folder. My legs felt steadier than when I walked in. "Miss Park," I said. "Thank you." "Thank me when it's over," she replied. "Right now we have work to do." I walked out of that office into the December sunshine, feeling something I had not felt in a very long time. Hope. And right behind it, something sharper and stronger. Determination. Dr. Begley's office was in a medical building near Scottsdale, 20 minutes from my house. Linda had gotten me an appointment for the following morning, which told me she had called in a favor. Neurologists usually book weeks in advance. I arrived 15 minutes early and sat in the waiting room with my hands folded in my lap, watching other patients come and go. An older man with a walker. A woman about my age holding her daughter's arm. I wondered what had brought them here. Memory loss? Confusion? Were they here voluntarily, or had someone forced their hand? "Margaret Cole?" A nurse called my name. I followed her back to an exam room where she took my vital signs and asked me basic questions. Date of birth, current medications, any history of head injuries or strokes. "None," I said. "I'm here because I need documentation that I'm mentally competent." She did not react, just made a note on her chart. I supposed she had heard stranger requests. Dr. Begley came in a few minutes later. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with glasses and a calm, measured way of speaking. "Mrs. Cole, I understand Miss Park referred you." She explained the general situation. "You're facing a potential guardianship challenge, and you need a thorough cognitive assessment." "Yes," I said. "My daughter is planning to claim I'm incompetent. I need proof that I'm not." He nodded, pulling up a stool. "Then let's establish a baseline. I'm going to run you through a series of tests. Some will feel easy, some might feel silly. Just answer honestly and do your best. There are no trick questions." For the next hour, he put me through everything. He asked me to remember lists of words, then recall them 5 minutes later. Apple, table, penny, flower, river. I got all 5. He had me draw a clock showing 10 minutes past 11. I drew the circle, placed the numbers, positioned the hands correctly. He asked me to count backward from 100 by sevens. 100, 93, 86, 79. I kept going until he told me to stop. He showed me pictures of objects and asked me to name them. Scissors, cactus, hammock, accordion, no hesitation. He tested my ability to follow complex instructions. "Take this paper in your right hand, fold it in half, and place it on the floor." I did exactly that. He asked me questions about current events. Who is the president? What year is it? What season are we in? Every answer came easily. My mind felt sharp, focused. If anything, I was more alert than usual because I knew what was riding on this. After the formal tests, Dr. Begley sat back and studied me. "Mrs. Cole, I'm also going to ask you some personal questions. They might feel intrusive, but they help me understand your overall function. Do you manage your own finances?" "Yes. I've been doing it for over 50 years. I balanced my household budget, paid bills, managed investments with my late husband. I still do all of that now." "Do you prepare your own meals?" "Every day." "Drive?" "Yes. I have a clean driving record." "Any trouble with daily tasks? Dressing, bathing, remembering appointments?" "None whatsoever." He made notes, then looked up at me. "Can you tell me why your daughter believes you're incompetent?" I took a breath. "Because she wants my house and my money. and claiming I'm incompetent is the easiest legal path to take them from me." His expression did not change, but I saw something flicker in his eyes. Understanding, maybe, or sadness. "Have you experienced any memory problems, confusion, difficulty with familiar tasks?" I left the oven on once after I got distracted by a phone call. It happened one time. My daughter has mentioned it at least 20 times since then. She also claims I repeat myself, but I don't believe I do. I think she's creating a narrative. "And do you feel you're capable of making your own decisions about your health, your finances, and your living situation?" "Absolutely," I said, and there was no hesitation in my voice. "I know exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it." Dr. Begley set down his clipboard. "Mrs. Cole, based on everything I've seen today, you're performing at or above normal cognitive function for your age. Your memory is excellent. Your reasoning is clear. Your judgment is sound. I see no evidence of dementia, confusion, or impairment of any kind. I'll have a full written report ready by tomorrow afternoon, but I can tell you right now that anyone claiming you're incompetent would have a very hard time supporting that claim in court." Relief washed over me, so strong I felt tears prick at my eyes. "Thank you." "You're welcome. And Mrs. Cole? I see cases like yours more often than I'd like. Adult children who confuse concern with control. You're doing the right thing by protecting yourself." I left his office with a lightness in my chest I had not felt in months. The official report would come soon, a document with letterhead and signatures and medical authority, proof that I was exactly who I knew I was. Capable, clear-minded, in control. That afternoon, I stopped at a store and bought a new notebook. Not a legal pad this time, a proper hardcover journal with a black cover. At home, I sat at my kitchen table and wrote on the first page in careful letters, "My life, my rules." Underneath, I started a new kind of list. Things I will do: sell the house, move to a safe place, secure my accounts, change my will, protect what's mine. Things I will not do: apologize, explain, justify, give them another chance. I flipped to the next page and began documenting every room in my house, what I wanted to keep, what I could donate, what I would leave behind. I had lived here for 40 years, but most of the furniture was just furniture. Things could be replaced, safety could not. Over the next 2 days, I worked quietly. While Jenna was at her shift and Brad was out, I went through closets and drawers. I packed a box of photo albums, my wedding china, my husband's watch, a quilt my mother had made, the things that mattered. Everything else was negotiable. Linda called on the third day. "I have a realtor. Her name is Susan Wilkins. She specializes in fast sales and she's very discreet. Can you meet her tomorrow morning at 10? "Yes," I said. "And Dr. Begley sent over your evaluation. Margaret, it's perfect. Any judge who reads this will see immediately that you're fully competent." I closed my eyes and let myself feel it. One more piece falling into place. That night, I sat in my bedroom with the neurologist's report on my lap. Official letterhead, clear language, cognitive function within normal limits, no evidence of impairment. I thought about Jenna upstairs weeks ago, talking about how confused I was, how I needed guardianship, how a doctor had already signed off on it. I whispered into the quiet room, my voice steady and cold. "They wanted to declare me incompetent. Let's test that theory." Susan Wilkins arrived at my house at exactly 10 o'clock the next morning. I had made sure Jenna was at work, and Brad had left an hour earlier, claiming he had a job interview. I did not believe him, but I was grateful for the empty house. Susan was in her mid-40s, professional but warm, carrying a leather portfolio and a measuring tape. She shook my hand at the door and got straight to business. "Mrs. Cole," Linda explained your situation. "I want you to know that everything we do here is confidential. I won't discuss this sale with anyone except you and the title company. And we're going to move fast." "How fast?" I asked, leading her inside. "If we price it right and find a cash buyer, we can close in 10 days. Maybe less." 10 days. That would be December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. 2 days before Jenna planned to destroy me. Susan walked through every room, taking notes and measurements. She photographed the kitchen, the living room, the bedrooms. She checked the roof from the outside, examined the garage, looked at the landscaping. The whole time, I felt my heart beating too fast, afraid that Brad would come home early, that Jenna would forget something and turn around, that a neighbor would see the realtor's car and mention it. But no one came. After an hour, Susan sat with me at my kitchen table and showed me comparables, houses similar to mine that had sold recently in the neighborhood. The numbers ranged from $490,000 to $540,000. If we list at $495 and make it clear you're motivated, we'll have offers within 48 hours, she said. Cash buyers are looking for exactly this. Paid-off property, good condition, owner ready to move quickly. It's perfect for investors. $495. Less than the assessed value, but I did not care. This was not about getting every possible dollar. This was about survival. Do it, I said. Susan nodded and pulled out paperwork. Listing agreement, disclosure forms, authorization to show the property. I signed everything with a hand that trembled just slightly. When can you start showings? I asked. This afternoon if you're ready. I already have 3 buyers I'm working with who would jump on this. Can you be out of the house for a few hours? Yes. But my daughter and her husband live here too. They can't know. Susan's expression tightened. Understood. I'll schedule showings when they're not home. Do you know their schedules? I pulled out my phone and showed her the calendar where I had been tracking their routines for the past week. Jenna worked Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from noon to 8. Brad claimed to be job hunting most mornings, which meant he left around 9 and came back around 2. We'll work around them, Susan said. And Mrs. Cole? Start packing. Quietly. Just the essentials for now. When we get an offer, things will move very fast. That afternoon, while the house was empty, Susan brought the first potential buyer. I sat in a coffee shop 3 blocks away, drinking tea I could not taste, watching the clock. Every minute felt like 10. What if Jenna came home sick? What if Brad's interview ended early? What if a neighbor saw strangers walking through my house and called to ask what was happening? But my phone stayed silent. Susan texted me an hour later. Showing complete. Buyer very interested. Expect offer tonight. I drove home and found everything exactly as I had left it. No one had noticed a thing. That night, Jenna made dinner. Spaghetti, garlic bread, salad. We sat at the table like a normal family. Brad talked about his interview. Jenna complained about a difficult patient at work. I nodded and made appropriate sounds, while inside my head I kept thinking, a stranger walked through this kitchen 6 hours ago. A stranger who might buy this house out from under you before you even know what's happening. My hands shook as I lifted my fork. I hid them under the table. The offer came at 9:30 that night. Susan called while I was in my bedroom with the door closed. Cash offer, $480. Closing in 12 days. December 23rd. They'll waive inspection if you agree to sell as is. $480,000, $20,000 less than asking, but all cash, no contingencies, and a closing date that landed exactly where I needed it. I'll take it, I said. I'll send the paperwork tonight, sign and return by tomorrow morning, and we'll be in contract. I hung up and sat on my bed, staring at the wall. My house. The house where I had lived for 40 years, where I had raised my children and buried my husband's ashes in the garden. Where every room held a memory, and in 12 days, it would belong to someone else. But Jenna would never have it, and that was worth every memory I was leaving behind. Over the next week and a half, I lived 2 lives. During the day, I was the same confused old woman Jenna expected me to be. I asked what day it was. I misplaced my reading glasses on purpose. I let Brad correct me when I told a story, even though I knew I had the details right. I played my part perfectly. But when they were gone, I worked. I packed boxes and hid them in the garage behind old lawn equipment, photo albums, important documents, my mother's jewelry, my husband's military medals, clothes I would need. Kitchen items I could not replace. Everything fit into 12 medium boxes that I labeled donations, so if anyone saw them, they would not ask questions. Linda found me an apartment in a senior living community 15 minutes away. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, small kitchen, washer and dryer in the unit. The lease started December 20th. I signed the paperwork in Linda's office and wrote a check for the first and last month's rent. My new home, a place Jenna did not know about, could not find, could not take. The title company called with questions. The buyers wanted to move the closing up a day, to December 22nd. Could I accommodate that? Yes, I said immediately. The earlier the better. The inspection waiver went through. The title search came back clean. The buyers wired their earnest money. Every piece fell into place like a machine I had built with my own hands. But my body knew the truth of what I was doing. I stopped sleeping more than 3 or 4 hours a night. I would lie in bed listening to Jenna and Brad moving around the house, hearing their voices through the walls, wondering if they suspected anything. My appetite disappeared. Food tasted like cardboard. I lost 5 pounds in 8 days. My hands trembled constantly now. Not just when I was nervous, all the time. I would be pouring coffee and watch the liquid shake in the cup. I would be signing documents and see my signature waver on the line. Fear lived in my chest like a stone. Fear that they would find out. Fear that something would go wrong. Fear that I was making a terrible mistake. But underneath the fear was something harder. Something that kept me moving forward even when I wanted to stop. Rage. Pure, clean rage at what they had tried to do to me. On December 22nd, I told Jenna I had a doctor's appointment. She barely looked up from her phone. "Okay, Mom, don't forget your insurance card." I drove to the title company in downtown Phoenix. Linda met me there. The closing took 45 minutes. I signed page after page after page. Deed transfer, settlement statement, tax forms. Affidavits. The title officer, a woman with kind eyes and gray hair, slid the final document across the table. "Mrs. Cole, once you sign this, the property transfers to the new owner. Are you ready?" I picked up the pen. My hand was shaking so badly I had to grip it with both hands to keep it steady. I thought about Jenna's voice. "Once the court says she's incompetent, the house is ours." I signed my name. The title officer smiled. "Congratulations, you've just sold your home." I walked out of that office with a cashier's check for $476,000 in my purse. After fees and closing costs, that was what remained. The house was no longer mine. And it would never, ever be Jenna's. I moved into my new apartment on the afternoon of December 22nd, 3 hours after I signed away my house. The senior living community was called Saguaro Gardens. Low buildings arranged around a central courtyard with palm trees and walking paths. My unit was on the ground floor, number 114, with a small covered patio overlooking a flower bed. The movers I had hired arrived at 1 o'clock while Jenna was at work, and Brad was wherever Brad went during the day. They loaded the 12 boxes from my garage, along with the furniture I had arranged to take. My bedroom set, my favorite reading chair, the small kitchen table I had eaten breakfast at for 30 years. Everything fit. Barely, but it fit. By 5 o'clock, I was sitting in my new living room, surrounded by boxes, exhausted but safe. This was mine, a place where no one could plot against me in the room above. A place where I did not have to perform, or pretend, or walk on eggshells. I made myself tea and unpacked the essentials: sheets for the bed, towels for the bathroom, dishes for the kitchen. By the time darkness fell outside my window, the apartment looked almost like a home. But I was not finished yet. There was one more thing I needed to do. I sat at my new kitchen table and opened the folder Linda had given me that morning at the closing. Inside were copies of every important document: the house sale, the neurologist's evaluation, the revocation of power of attorney, bank statements showing the money I had spent on Jenna and Brad over 2 years. I also had the recording, the one I had made on my phone 10 days ago, standing in my laundry room while my daughter planned my destruction. I had given a copy to Linda, but I had kept the original file saved in 3 different places, evidence that could not be erased or explained away. I pulled out a large manila envelope and began selecting what to include. First, the settlement statement from the house sale, every page, the buyers' names, the sale price, the closing date of December 22nd, Proof that the house was gone and there was nothing they could do about it. Second, Dr. Begley's full neurological evaluation. 6 pages of test results and professional opinion, all concluding the same thing. I was completely competent. No dementia, no confusion, no impairment. Any claim otherwise was a lie. Third, the formal revocation of medical power of attorney. The document I had signed with Linda, canceling the authority I had foolishly given Jenna years ago. She could no longer make medical decisions for me. She could no longer speak for me. That door was closed forever. Fourth, a timeline I had written myself. 2 pages detailing every financial contribution I had made, every dollar, every sacrifice. The total at the bottom, circled in red ink, $51,840. And finally, a letter. I had not planned to write one, but as I sat there looking at all the evidence, I realized I needed to say something. Not for Jenna, for myself. I pulled out a piece of clean paper and began to write. Jenna, you plan to humiliate me in front of my friends and neighbors on Christmas Day. You plan to have me declared incompetent and take everything I worked for. You plan to erase my autonomy and throw me into a facility while you lived in my house and spent my money. I heard every word. I have recordings. I have proof. And I have protected myself in every legal way possible. The house is sold. My assets are secure. My competence is documented. You will not control me. You will not manipulate me. You will not steal from me. This ends now. I raised you to be better than this. I loved you more than my own life. But love without respect is just need, and I will not be used anymore. I hope someday you understand what you became. Margaret. I read it twice, then folded it and placed it on top of the other documents. Everything fit perfectly inside the manila envelope. On the outside, in clear block letters, I wrote, "For Jenna." I sealed it and sat back, staring at what I had created. Not just an envelope, a bomb. A truth that would destroy every plan they had made. It was almost 8 o'clock, late enough that the house would be quiet, early enough that they would not be asleep yet. I drove back to my old neighborhood, my heart pounding harder with every mile. The street looked the same as always, Christmas lights on some houses, cars in driveways, everything normal. But nothing was normal anymore. I parked 2 houses down and turned off my headlights. Through the front window, I could see the glow of the television. They were home. Probably on the couch, probably planning their big Christmas dinner performance just 3 days away. They had no idea their entire world was about to collapse. I took my key and walked quietly to the side door, the one that led through the laundry room. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the envelope. I steadied myself against the doorframe and listened. Television voices, a commercial, nothing else. I slipped inside, moving through the laundry room into the hallway. Every step felt too loud. Every breath sounded like thunder. I climbed the stairs, keeping to the edges where the wood did not creak as much. My bedroom door was half open. I stepped inside and crossed to the dresser. Top drawer. Exactly where I told her it would be. I placed the envelope inside, centering it carefully so she could not miss it. Then I stood there for a moment, looking around the room that had been mine for 40 years. The bed where my husband died. The closet where I had kept my wedding dress until I finally donated it. The window that looked out over the backyard where my children used to play. So many memories, so much life. And now it belonged to strangers. But it was better this way. Strangers could not betray you. Strangers could not smile in your face while planning to destroy you. I felt grief rise in my chest, sharp and sudden. Not for the house, for my daughter, for the child I had raised who had grown into someone I did not recognize. Someone who saw her own mother as nothing more than an obstacle to overcome. Where had I gone wrong? What had I done to make her think this was acceptable? But even as the questions formed, I knew the truth. This was not about me. This was about her choices, her greed, her willingness to hurt someone who loved her. I had not failed as a mother. She had failed as a daughter. I closed the drawer quietly and stepped back. My voice came out as a whisper, steady and final. "Merry Christmas, Jenna." Then I turned and walked out of that house for the last time. Christmas morning arrived quiet and gentle. I woke up in my new apartment at 7:30, sunlight streaming through curtains I had hung just 2 days earlier. For a moment, I forgot where I was. The ceiling looked wrong. The walls were the wrong color. Then memory settled in and I remembered. I was free. I made coffee in my small kitchen, the kind I liked, strong and black. No one to tell me it was too early or too strong or that I should switch to decaf. I put on a Christmas album, soft instrumental carols, and sat at my table looking out at the courtyard. A few residents were already walking the paths, an older man with a dog, 2 women in matching tracksuits doing their morning exercise, normal people living normal lives. I was one of them now. I ate toast with butter and jam. I watered the small poinsettia I had bought for myself. I did not turn on the television. I did not need the noise. The quiet was enough. My phone sat on the counter, silent. I knew it would not stay that way. The first call came at 11:47. I watched Jenna's name light up the screen. I let it ring through to voicemail. She did not leave a message. 10 seconds later, it rang again. I picked up my coffee and took a sip, watching her name flash over and over. She was panicking. Good. On the third call, I answered. "Hello, Jenna." "Mom." Her voice was bright but strained, like a wire pulled too tight. "Where are you? Everyone's here." "The pastor just arrived. The Hendersons are in the living room. Aunt Carla brought her famous rolls. We're all waiting for you to come pray over dinner. You're late." I took another sip of coffee, slow and deliberate. "Oh, sweetheart," I said, and the word tasted like metal in my mouth. "I'm exactly where I need to be." Silence. Then her voice came back sharper. "What does that mean? You're supposed to be here. You can't just forget Christmas dinner. Everyone is asking where you are." "I didn't forget," I said calmly. "Go upstairs." "What?" "Go to my bedroom. Top dresser drawer. There's an envelope with your name on it. Open it while we're on the phone." "Mom, what are you talking about? I don't have time for this. People are waiting and the turkey is almost ready and—" "Now, Jenna." My voice cut through her excuses like a blade. There must have been something in my tone, something she had never heard before, because she went quiet. I heard movement, her breathing, quick and shallow, footsteps on the hardwood floor, then muffled as she reached the carpet. Voices in the background, someone laughing, the clink of glasses. All those people downstairs, waiting for the show Jenna had planned, waiting to watch her poor, confused mother break down so they could nod sympathetically when the guardianship papers were filed. A door opened. Footsteps across my old bedroom. The drawer slid open. There's an envelope here." "Yes," I said. "Open it." I heard paper tearing. Then silence. 5 seconds. 10. 15. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, confused. "What is this?" "This says, Mom, this says you sold the house. On December 22nd. That was 3 days ago." "You can't. This doesn't make sense." "It makes perfect sense," I replied. "Keep reading." More rustling. I could picture her hands shaking as she pulled out page after page. The settlement statement, the neurologist's report, the revoked power of attorney. "You sold our house?" Her voice was rising now, panic replacing confusion. "You sold it without telling us? Where are we supposed to live? What are we supposed to do?" "Your house?" I let the question hang in the air. "Jenna, that house was never yours. It was mine. My name on the deed. My mortgage payments for 30 years. My home. And yes, I sold it. Because I heard you planning to take it from me." "That's not... We weren't trying to. Mom, you're confused. You don't understand what..." "I understand perfectly," I cut in. "I stood in my laundry room 10 days ago and heard every word. The fake doctor's letter, the Christmas dinner intervention, the guardianship petition. I heard you and Brad planning to humiliate me in front of everyone downstairs right now so you could declare me incompetent and steal everything I worked for." Dead silence. Then Brad's voice in the background, rough and demanding. "What's going on? What is she talking about?" I heard the phone shift. Jenna must have put me on speaker. "Mrs. Cole." Brad's voice came through now, trying to sound reasonable but with an edge underneath. I think there's been a misunderstanding. We were just concerned about you. You've been forgetting things, acting strangely. We thought you might need some help managing your affairs." "Is that what you call it?" I asked. "Managing my affairs? Or were you managing to steal my house while pretending to care about my welfare? This is ridiculous. We have rights. We've been living there for 2 years. You can't just sell the house out from under us without warning." "Actually, Brad, I can. And I did. Because it was my house, my property, my legal right to sell it whenever I wanted. You were guests. Guests who never paid rent, never contributed to bills, and apparently spent their free time plotting to have me declared incompetent." Jenna's voice came back, desperate now. "Mom, we already filed some paperwork. We talked to a lawyer. This doesn't change anything. You selling the house like this just proves you're not thinking clearly. We can still—" "No, Jenna. You can't." I set down my coffee cup and spoke clearly, each word deliberate. "In that envelope, you'll find a full neurological evaluation from Dr. Begley, 6 pages documenting that I'm in perfect mental health. You'll also find the revocation of the power of attorney I foolishly gave you years ago. You no longer have any legal authority over my medical care or my finances. And you'll find a timeline of every dollar I spent on you for the past 2 years, $51,840, all documented, all proof that I'm the victim here, not you." "You can't do this," Brad said, his voice hardening. "We'll fight it. We'll tell the judge you were manipulated, that your lawyer took advantage of you. We'll get everything reversed." "With what evidence, Brad?" "The fake letter from Dr. Lang, who never examined me. Good luck explaining that to a judge. Or maybe you'd like to present your case using the recording I made of you and Jenna planning this entire scheme in my bedroom." The silence that followed was absolute. You recorded us?" Jenna's voice was barely a whisper now. "I recorded my own daughter in my own house discussing how to steal my life. Yes. Arizona is a one-party consent state, which means those recordings are completely legal. Linda has copies. The court will have copies if you try to file anything. Every word you said, every detail of your plan, all of it documented." I heard something crash in the background, glass breaking, someone downstairs asking if everything was okay. Brad's voice came back, louder now, angrier. "This won't hold up. You're 72 years old. No judge will believe you did all this on your own. Someone put you up to this. Someone manipulated you into protecting myself," I asked. "Into using my own legal rights to secure my own property? Brad, I was a bookkeeper for 30 years. I managed household finances, investments, and tax returns. I'm not a confused old woman. I'm someone who finally woke up to what you were doing." Jenna made a sound somewhere between a sob and a gasp. "Mom, please. We didn't mean. We were just worried about you. You've been acting strange. We thought. You thought I would be easy to control." I finished. "You thought you could manufacture a crisis on Christmas Day, humiliate me in front of my friends, and have me declared incompetent before I knew what was happening. You thought wrong." More voices downstairs now. The pastor asking if Jenna was coming down, someone mentioning that dinner was getting cold. "You need to send your guests home," I said quietly. "Tell them I'm sick. Tell them whatever story makes you look good. But do not, ever again, try to take my life out from under me while smiling in my face." "Where are we supposed to go?" Jenna's voice cracked. "We counted on this house. We have kids. We have nowhere to—" "You're both in your 30s with college degrees. You have working legs and functioning brains. You'll figure it out. I did, at 21, with a baby and no help from anyone." "Mom." "No, Jenna. That was your last chance. The moment you decided I was an obstacle instead of a person. The moment you chose greed over respect. You made your choice. Now, live with it." My hand was steady as I moved my thumb to the end call button. "You should not have tried to ruin me." I hung up and blocked her number before I could change my mind. The apartment was quiet again. My Christmas album still played softly in the background. Silent night, holy night. I sat at my table and looked out at the courtyard, at the palm trees swaying in the gentle December breeze, at the world continuing on like nothing had happened. Somewhere across town, my daughter was standing in a house that no longer belonged to me, holding papers that proved all her careful plans had turned to dust. And I was here, safe, free, whole. I picked up my coffee and took a long, slow sip. It tasted like victory. The calls started again 2 hours later. I had blocked Jenna's number, but she tried from Brad's phone, then from a number I did not recognize, then from what looked like Aunt Carla's cell. Each time, I watched the screen light up and let it go to voicemail. I did not listen to the messages. I did not need to. I knew what they would say. Apologies that were not really apologies, explanations that were really excuses, promises that meant nothing. But Linda called that evening, and I answered immediately. Margaret, they filed an emergency petition this afternoon, guardianship based on alleged mental incapacity. They're claiming you're being manipulated and need immediate intervention. My stomach dropped. Can they do that? On Christmas Day? They can try. The courthouse is closed, but they submitted it electronically for review. It'll be assigned to a judge tomorrow morning. Linda's voice was calm, steady. But Margaret, don't worry. I've already prepared our response. The neurologist's report, the house sale documents, the recordings, everything. When the judge sees what we have, this gets dismissed immediately. What if the judge sides with them before reading everything? What if they get temporary custody, or whatever it's called? Emergency guardianship, Linda corrected. And it won't happen. The standard is very high. They'd need to prove you're in immediate danger and unable to make decisions. We have medical proof that you're completely competent. Their petition is going to fall apart the second a judge looks at it. I let out a breath I had not realized I was holding. Okay. What do I need to do? Nothing. I'll handle it. You stay where you are, stay safe, and let me deal with them. She was right. The next morning, Linda called with an update. The judge reviewed both filings, denied their petition outright. Not only that, he scheduled a hearing for next week to determine if they filed frivolously. Making false statements in guardianship petitions is serious, Margaret. They could face penalties. What kind of penalties? Fines, court costs, possibly sanctions against their attorney if he knew the claims were fabricated. The judge was not pleased with the fake doctor's letter. Dr. Lang is going to have some explaining to do about why he signed a form for a patient he never examined. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to satisfaction. Not joy, not happiness, just the quiet knowledge that justice was starting to catch up with them. But Jenna and Brad were not finished. When the legal route failed, they switched tactics. The texts started on December 27th. From numbers I did not recognize, which meant they were using friends' phones or maybe getting new ones. Mom, please, I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Can we talk? I love you. I never meant to hurt you. Please give me a chance to explain. The kids are asking about Grandma. They miss you. Please don't punish them for my mistakes. That last one almost worked. My grandchildren. 2 little ones who had nothing to do with their parents' greed. But I stopped myself before I could respond, because Jenna was using them as weapons. She always had, mentioning them whenever she wanted something, knowing I would bend. Not anymore. More texts came. These were different, desperate. We have nowhere to go. The new owners want us out by January 5th. We can't find a place that will take us with our credit. Please, Mom, we need help. Brad lost another job opportunity because of the stress. We're falling apart. Don't you care what happens to us? I know you're angry, but family forgives. Family helps each other. You taught me that. I read each message and felt nothing. No guilt, no sympathy, no wavering. Because I recognized what this was. Not remorse, not love, just panic that their safety net had disappeared. They did not want me. They wanted what I could give them. Money, housing, control. Linda filed a formal restraining order request after the texts kept coming. Harassment, unwanted contact, attempts at manipulation. The judge granted a temporary order. No contact except through attorneys. Violation would result in contempt charges. The texts stopped. But 3 days later, a letter arrived at my apartment. hand-delivered, slipped under my door. I recognized Jenna's handwriting on the envelope. I almost threw it away without opening it, but something made me look. Maybe I needed to see how far she would go. Maybe I needed confirmation that I had made the right choice. Inside was 3 pages, front and back. Her handwriting, rushed and messy. She called me her best friend, her rock, her everything. She said she had made mistakes, but she was learning and growing, and she needed her mother now more than ever. She said Brad was sorry too, that he had been the one pushing the guardianship idea and she had just gone along with it because she was scared and confused. She said she forgave me for selling the house. She understood I was upset, but now it was time to move forward, to heal, to be a family again. At the bottom, she had written, "I love you more than anything. Please come back to us." I read it twice, then I tore it into small pieces and threw it in the trash. Because I knew the truth. She loved what I represented. Stability, money, a backup plan, but she did not love me. People who love you do not try to destroy you. People who love you do not fake medical documents and plan public humiliation. Love without respect is just need, and I was done being needed. That evening, I sat down to my first real meal in my new apartment. Nothing fancy. Chicken breast, roasted vegetables, a small salad. But it was mine, cooked in my kitchen, eaten at my table, in complete silence. No one complaining about the seasoning. No one scrolling on their phone instead of talking. No one making comments about my memory or my choices or my life. Just me. The quiet hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of a television in a neighbor's unit. I took a bite and closed my eyes. This was what freedom tasted like. I had spent 2 years walking on eggshells, moderating my voice, making myself smaller so Jenna and Brad could feel bigger. I had apologized for things that were not my fault. I had second-guessed every decision, wondering if maybe they were right, maybe I was declining, maybe I did need their help. But sitting here now, in my small apartment with my simple meal and my hard-won peace, I understood something I had not fully grasped before. Silence is freedom. Not loneliness, not isolation, freedom. The freedom to live without fear, without manipulation, without constantly bracing for the next criticism or the next demand. I finished my meal slowly, savoring every bite. Then I washed my dishes, dried them, and put them away. My kitchen, my dishes, my life. And no one could take that from me ever again. The hearing happened on January 8th. Linda had warned me I did not need to attend, but I wanted to be there. I wanted to see it. The moment when everything they had planned came crashing down in front of a judge. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Plain walls, fluorescent lights, wooden benches that reminded me of church pews. Linda sat beside me at one table. Across the aisle, Jenna and Brad sat with their attorney, a nervous-looking man in an ill-fitting suit who kept shuffling papers like he was searching for something that was not there. Jenna would not look at me. She stared straight ahead, her hands folded on the table, her face pale. Brad kept glancing over, his jaw tight, anger radiating from him like heat. The judge entered. A woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and an expression that suggested she did not tolerate nonsense. "This is a motion to dismiss a guardianship petition," she said, looking down at the file in front of her, "and a counter-motion alleging frivolous filing and elder abuse. Let's start with the petitioners. Counselor, your clients filed an emergency guardianship petition claiming Mrs. Margaret Cole is mentally incapacitated and in immediate danger. What evidence do you have to support this claim?" Jenna's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my clients were acting out of genuine concern for Mrs. Cole's welfare. She has exhibited signs of memory loss, confusion, and erratic behavior. They felt she needed protection." "Do you have medical documentation of this alleged incapacity?" the judge asked. The lawyer hesitated. "We submitted a letter from Dr. Lang stating that Mrs. Cole shows signs of cognitive decline." "I've read that letter," the judge said, her tone cooling. "Doctor, Lang has since submitted an affidavit to this court stating that he signed a form based on your client's representations, but he has never actually examined Mrs. Cole. Is that correct? The lawyer's face went red. Your Honor, there may have been some miscommunication about... Miscommunication? The judge cut him off. Counselor, submitting false medical evidence in a guardianship case is not a miscommunication. It's fraud. Silence. The judge turned to Linda. Miss Park, I've reviewed your response. You've submitted a comprehensive neurological evaluation from Dr. Begley showing Mrs. Cole is fully competent. You've also provided evidence that your client sold her own property legally and is managing her affairs independently. Is there anything you'd like to add? Linda stood. Yes, Your Honor. I'd also like to submit recordings of the petitioners discussing their plan to fabricate Mrs. Cole's incapacity in order to gain control of her assets. These recordings clearly show this was not about concern. It was about theft. The judge took the flash drive Linda offered. I'll review these, but based on what I've seen so far, this petition is denied. Permanently. Mrs. Cole is clearly competent to manage her own affairs. She turned back to Jenna and Brad. Furthermore, I'm sanctioning both petitioners and their attorney. You will pay Mrs. Cole's legal fees. You will also pay a fine to the court for filing a frivolous and malicious petition. This kind of abuse of the guardianship system will not be tolerated. Brad stood up, his chair scraping loudly. This is ridiculous. She's our family. We have rights. Sit down, Mr. Thompson, the judge said sharply. You have no rights to another person's property or autonomy, family or not. What you do have is a serious problem if I find evidence of attempted elder abuse. Now, sit down before I hold you in contempt. Brad sat. Jenna still would not look at me. Mrs. Cole, the judge said, her voice softening slightly, do you wish to pursue criminal charges against your daughter and son-in-law? I looked at Jenna then, really looked at her. She was crying, silent tears running down her face. She looked smaller somehow, defeated. Part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to watch her face consequences for what she had tried to do. But another part, the part that remembered rocking her to sleep as a baby, just felt tired. No, Your Honor, I said. I just want them to leave me alone. The judge nodded. The restraining order remains in place. No contact except through attorneys. This court is adjourned. We walked out into the January sunshine. Linda squeezed my shoulder. You did it, she said. We did it, I corrected. But it was not quite over yet. The legal consequences were just the beginning. The social consequences came next. News travels fast in a church community. By the following Sunday, everyone knew. Not the version Jenna had planned to tell, the story of her poor, confused mother who needed to be saved. The real version, the truth about what she had tried to do. My friend Dorothy called me that afternoon. Margaret, I had no idea. When Jenna told us you were sick on Christmas, I believed her. I feel like such a fool. You're not a fool, I said. She's very good at lying. Well, she won't be lying to us anymore. Half the choir has already told her she's not welcome, and the pastor wants to speak with her about Christian values and honesty. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt sad. This was not how I wanted things to end. But Jenna had made her choices. Now she lived with them. A week later, I took part of the money from the house sale and donated $25,000 to a local organization that helped elderly adults protect themselves from financial abuse. The director, a kind woman named Patricia, invited me to speak at one of their support groups. I told my story to a room of 15 people, mostly women my age or older, who had experienced similar betrayals, adult children who stole, family members who manipulated. Loved ones who saw them as resources instead of people. When I finished, a woman in the front row reached for my hand. Thank you, she whispered. I thought I was the only one. You're not, I said, and you're not powerless either. I started building my new life, piece by piece. I decorated my apartment. A soft blue for the bedroom, cheerful yellow curtains in the kitchen, plants on the patio that I watered every morning. I joined a book club in the community. We met every Tuesday evening to discuss mysteries and historical fiction. I joined a water aerobics class on Thursdays. I volunteered at the library on Saturday mornings, shelving books and helping patrons find what they needed. For the first time in years, I had friends who wanted nothing from me except my company. People who valued my thoughts, my opinions, my time. People who saw me as a whole person, not as a means to an end. In February, one final message came through. A new number I did not recognize. A text that appeared on my screen while I was making dinner. "Mom, please. We're being evicted. We need $5,000 for first and last month's rent somewhere new. The kids need stability. Please help us. I'm begging you." I stared at the message for a long moment. $5,000, a fraction of what they had taken from me over 2 years, a drop in the bucket compared to what they had tried to steal. But it was not about the amount. It was about what it represented. One more demand, one more manipulation, one more time treating me like a bank account with a heartbeat. I typed a response, my fingers steady on the screen. "I'm honoring the choice you made when you tried to destroy me. Do not contact me again." I sent it. Then I blocked the number. Then I blocked every possible way she could reach me. Email, social media, everything. The silence that followed was complete. That evening, I stood in my living room looking around at the life I had built. Small but mine, simple but safe, quiet but peaceful. My favorite chair by the window, my books on the shelf, my plants growing in their pots, my calendar on the wall with Tuesday's book club circled in red, Thursday's water aerobics marked in blue. No one to question my choices, no one to undermine my confidence, no one to make me feel small or foolish or in the way. Just me, Margaret, 72 years old, competent, independent, free. I thought about the woman I had been 6 weeks ago, standing in her laundry room, shaking with shock and fear, listening to her daughter plan her destruction. That woman had felt powerless, trapped, broken. This woman, standing in her own apartment in her own life, felt none of those things. I walked to my patio door and stepped outside into the cool evening air. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear children playing, a dog barking, the normal sounds of people living their lives. I took a deep breath and smiled. I was safe. I was whole. And I was never, ever going back. Spring arrived in Arizona with wildflowers blooming along the walking paths at Saguaro Gardens. I had been in my apartment for 3 months, and the rhythm of my days had settled into something I never expected to find again. Peace. Every morning, I woke at 7 without an alarm. I made my coffee and sat on my small patio, watching the sun rise over the courtyard. Birds came to the feeder I had hung from the eave. Finches mostly, with their cheerful songs and busy energy, sometimes a dove or two. I named them, the regular.